Hello and welcome to the Develop Podcast. This is Danielle Reynolds, your go-to source for all things connecting, growing, and supporting you and your business. You are going to want to grab your pen and notepad for this episode as we are going to learn about a service you may not be familiar with when you think of Whitley Penn, and that is our data products and strategy. Most companies understand the value of data and insights, but many struggle to unlock its true potential. And that's why I have Jake Baine, Data Analytics Senior Manager, joining me today so we can discuss the balance between delivering immediate value from data investments and establishing a solid foundation for future growth and innovation. Jake, welcome to the Develop Podcast, and so excited you can join us.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me. Super excited to share kind of what we do and how we help small businesses.
Yeah, well, we're excited to pick your brain. So let's start with learning a little bit about your background, where you went to school, what you studied, and how your career has progressed to where you're at now.
Yeah, so I went to Texas Tech as undergrad, did finance in MIS. Right after that, I went to KPMG. I was there for 6 years and learned a lot, traveled a lot, mainly focused on tech strategy. So I saw some really cool things at a high level working with CIOs and CFOs. And then after that, I got a master's in data science while I was working at KPMG and wanted to focus more on data. And that's kind of where my passion has always been. I just didn't really know it at the time, early in my career. So after my master's in data science, which was also at Texas Tech, I went to EY and helped kind of start a finance analytics sub-service line. And really enjoyed that. Started traveling a bunch as well, saw a bunch. And then me and my wife had our first child in 2021. And we had to kind of slow down the travel. And Whitley Penn started up a data analytics service line, and it's been growing like crazy. And it's kind of how I got where I'm at today.
I love it. Great. Well, we're excited to learn more about the value you're bringing to our firm and to our clients. So let's dive in with the role of data analytics and accounting. Can you explain the basics of data analytics and what it would mean to a company and why it's important?
Yeah, so when I think of accounting, it's mainly processes, right? So like accounting processes are king for making sure that reports are being generated and financials are being produced. And so really early in my career, I kind of learned that accounting processes are super valuable in producing reports for understanding how a business is being run. And then from there, there's a lot of metrics that are a part of financial reporting that some systems just don't produce, or we help businesses automate or make easier. So yeah, I think you have to know accounting to really understand how analytics can be built. And so that's kind of where I started my career.
Okay, so you're definitely working more with accounting teams, correct? When you're working with companies?
Yep.
Okay, so we have data products and strategy, right, as a service line.
Yep.
So when I think of them, I really see them going hand in hand, right? You can't have one without the other. Can you explain what the data product would be and what they do, and then the developing the strategy part and why they're both important?
Yeah, so first off, some quick background. The reason why we call them data products is because my entire career I've always seen data analytics that things that were built and created a dashboard, it was never used again. And it would sit on a shelf and collect dust, theoretically. And so our goal is to, anytime we talk to a client, we understand what use cases they want to produce. We're looking at what reports do you have today and how can we make it better. So just like something you'd buy off Amazon, you expect like a quality, a price, who made it, who owns it. We do the same thing with a data product. We would say, who's going to own this internally, because this should be something that should last longer than we're there building it, and should be trusted and have high quality, and we should have an intangible value to what we're building. Whatever it takes for us to build, there should be a value associated after that. And so really we go in and we talk to clients and understand what are the main metrics you use to drive your business. And then we can develop a strategy around, how do we develop it? What are some use cases we can prioritize and build from there?
Do most usually have or know those metrics that they want to?
Yeah, so here's the cheat code of my career that many people may not realize is that reports, everyone has reports, otherwise you can't run a business. And so we always have a starting point. We're never building something from scratch. And I think that's something that we always have a place to start a conversation, and we're never starting from scratch on things, which is really key in what we're doing. So
I think that's something interesting
Yeah.
to kind of know.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned not starting from scratch, but you did on the data product side. It sounds like it could be very customizable, not a one size fits all. So can you chat about how you're building that out specific to the client and their needs?
Yeah, so every client is in their own specific industry. Every client has their own like technology platform or tools, and so we're really agnostic to all those things. And I think one way we differentiate ourselves is we come in and talk to clients as more of an advisor, and how do we solve your pain points rather than trying to sell you a certain software. That's not our goal at all. Our goal is to just make reporting easier, make processing it easier and more simple. And so depending on which industry you're in, we have some templates and stock things that we would provide. If you're in oil and gas, like we've done LOS statements, for example, a million times. And so we have some proven concepts there. We understand the source system. So although every client's a little bit different, we have kind of our methodology on how to standardize it on our end.
Okay, and it could vary by industry as well. Yeah, interesting. So everyone always wants to know the benefits. So can you talk to us about some of the benefits and explain how data products can really transform a business? I know there's several things we always chat about, whether it's better help with decision making, efficiencies, identifying certain trends, but what's really those benefits in improving that overall financial performance?
Yeah, so a lot of our clients, I feel like there's some technology fatigue in the market. They feel like they have a lot of technology, they have a lot of reporting. What else do we need? And so they sometimes are fatigued on just hearing about more technology for technology problems. And so we oftentimes see clients are a lot closer than they think they are to generate whatever reporting they want or automate certain things. And so we'll look at what technology you have in-house, and then we'll ultimately bring you a strategy that's like, hey, we're going to use what you have today, and we're going to build a dashboard or something that we'll go into the future with you. And then from there, once we kind of know what tools we're going to be using, then we can understand what metrics do you want to use or build or develop. And then if there's some that like you've never been able to use before, we can also come up with a game plan around that. So I'd say like the opportunities are somewhat endless with what clients ultimately want from us, so we see value in building things that are scalable based on what their needs are.
I love that you said that clients are closer than they think on the technology side. It's just kind of walking them through it and helping them maybe understand it more from an educational perspective. So when a client, so they're closer than they think, they get the product, do they see an immediate value right away when incorporating, or how does that kind of look for their business?
Yeah, so our goal is really to build it and get out of there as quickly as we can. And now some clients will want us to stick around and maintain it and monitor it for them. But our goal is really to educate the client on the dashboard or the tool that we build, and then ultimately let them own it. I think that's usually been the most success I've had, is when folks feel empowered with this new insight or new report that they've never had before. And so a lot of value initially for them is just like, wow, this is the art of the possible. And so we start building more things, in different intervals next. And so any client can start with a few ideas, and it quickly morphs into many different things. And so I think that's the value that I see, is just they see the opportunities and they start to add more ideas to it, and we continue to grow those things, and their business becomes better for it.
Yeah, it probably gets fun and maybe a little addictive, right?
Yeah,
you build a dashboard and you're like, oh, wait, can we do this now?
Yeah, exactly.
That would be fun.
Yep.
So, we talked about benefits, value, now some common challenges. So, what are you seeing? What might clients be facing? Which would then make them a good candidate, right? To think about incorporating some data products and strategies into their operations?
Yeah, so again, like I said, like most clients are closer than they realize, just because most source systems, like let's talk about QuickBooks and Sage, Intact, Acumatica, even there's other ERP systems out there. Most of those tools have reporting available within their platform. So theoretically, I mean, you have some of the reporting that you need today. Maybe you just need to stitch together some other things. So you're never that far away. Now, the more complex we get, that's where things can, obviously, a level of effort can ratchet up pretty quickly, and we can build those things. But I'd say one of the things that you have to understand when we're building something is the processes that produce the data are the most important part of this. And so if there's no data governance or data management associated in your business, then that's where we can oftentimes find like the soft spots in your processes, which then produce maybe low data quality, and then makes the dashboard a little bit harder to build. But it's an opportunity for Whitley Penn. We have our outsourced accounting team, and where we see accounting processes that are more manual in nature, that's where we can tap on other subject matter experts and bring them in the door. So
yeah, that's great. So no conflict there.
Right.
Okay, love that. And when you're bringing on new clients, do they kind of vary on where they're at? Like, are they mainly coming from Excel? Are they mainly have an ERP implementation? Does it matter?
Yeah, it feels like it's mainly clients that are in Excel and they feel like there's more value they could get from their system. Like they're paying a lot for their ERP system or other things, and they feel like they should be using it better. So some of it's just, hey, this button is here, use this, right? And sometimes it's custom stuff. But yeah, I think for the most part, clients just know that they see other applications, whether it be TurboTax or things are more simple to use in nature, and then their business, they feel like it's more complex. And so we're able to kind of bridge the gap on how to simplify the systems in their business to create reports.
Yeah, and make good data, right?
Yep.
That's always the name of the game.
Yep.
So can you walk us through what the typical process looks like? And let's start from scoping and identifying what the need is to then design and onboarding and then continuous support. Obviously, I'm assuming defining a data strategy could look very different for a different company, maybe a different industry, but maybe just an overall what that process would look like.
Sure. So every project we start with, we have our kind of own internal methodology on how to size up a data project. And so we'll give like a data quality score. So how quality is the data that we're going to be using? What source system is it coming from? Is this dashboard or report going to help generate revenue? Is this a cost reduction tool? Are we trying to find costs in the business? Is it a compliance tool? Is it something we need to do for compliance reasons? So all those ways we can categorize what we're ultimately building. And then who's going to be the end user of this dashboard or report, making sure that what they want to see we're actually building and meeting their requirements. Who's going to own this thing whenever after we've deployed it. So someone internally should know how it works and understand where the data is coming from. We'll also ask questions like, what's the mechanism for delivery? Is it Power BI, like a dashboarding tool? Is it an Excel file? Many different kind of ways that we can, what's the ultimate output? And then delivery frequency, is it daily, weekly, monthly, those things. And then we'll also look around like the data management, data governance around the processes that we're using. So making sure that this is scalable and alerting the client on any data management or governance issues that we see. So that's kind of how we start an engagement. And then after we've developed it, usually most dashboards were done in 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
So it's pretty quick, and it's iterative in nature. So we'll do it in 4 to 6 weeks, and then you may say, hey, add this column or add this pie chart, or can we double click into this data? And that's where that would be iteration 2. And we'll kind of treat it like a project that way. And then once we get to an iteration that you're comfortable with, we can train up folks internally to adopt this tool or dashboard. And if you want us to stick around kind of on a monthly basis, we can.
Okay, so all in all, is there like a certain timeline? Like, is this, you mentioned the 4 to 6 weeks for that design part? How long would you say? Is it a 12-week in total, or just ballpark?
Yeah, I think within 8 weeks we can have something ultimately deployed and like, I mean, literally like a bookmark on your desktop that you can go in and look at your business for certain metrics. So 4 to 6 weeks usually covers most ground, and then I'd say by that 8th week we have something published and you can start using it. So that's kind of our time frame.
Okay, that's great.
Yep.
You kind of touched on working within the energy industry, but Are there other types of companies or industries that are typically a good fit for this type of service, or a certain size?
Yeah, so industry-wise, we've seen a lot of oil and gas, obviously, being in Texas. We've seen manufacturing, we've seen professional services, retail. The good news and why we have so much demand for what we do is that data really is just tables, and once you understand that is across every business, and so it doesn't really matter what industry you're in. It's data, it's tables, and it's writing queries to pull the data out. And so the metrics, we have a list of like standard metrics that we have for each industry, because oil and gas is very specific for oil and gas. Professional services is specific for professional services. So all that being said, yeah, we touch as many industries as we can, and then the data and the technical side is always the same. So it makes us confident when we go in the door to be able to deliver something.
Yeah, and what would you say, like, if a company has multiple entities, right? But the CFO or whomever, the owner, wants to see them all. Is that something you'll typically work with?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's very common. A lot of family offices and different businesses where they have several different entities, different metrics for every service line, and we can kind of bring that consolidated view for a business owner.
Okay. You kind of mentioned, there's no conflict on like the outsourced accounting part, but do you and your team typically work with other service lines? Maybe it's audit, tax, whether it's in our firm or another firm. Is your team typically talking to those other, whether it's service providers or service lines?
Yeah, so obviously deal advisory here at Whitley Penn is a very data intensive group, and so they have a lot of smart, skilled guys and gals in their group, but we can sometimes bring more skills to their project if it's writing SQL queries, writing Python scripts, and all that is like a more advanced way of gathering data and analyzing it. So sometimes we can be plugged in there, and so we've seen good success where a business is trying to go through a transaction, and they're trying to get the data they need to complete the transaction, and it's a little bit complex, and so we can come in and help there. So we've seen it there. Deal advisory, our outsourced accounting group. Obviously, we work hand in hand with that team, and then obviously tax. There's the technology components around tax where sometimes we see some overlap there. But again, I think like since data is inherent in everything that we do, we can pretty much partner with all groups. But I think deal advisory and outsourced accounting is probably our main counterpart.
Yeah, that's awesome. So kind of moving outside of data analytics and dashboards, but not really. Can you share with us what you are doing as it relates to, and maybe this is more of the ongoing support, maybe it's something separate that you and your team can do, but how it relates to CFO advisory and support. So maybe it's related to the dashboards financially, maybe it's not financially, I don't know. Can you talk about how you and your team can support in that way?
Yeah, so CFOs oftentimes will want to get really granular into their business and understand transactions and roll them up to service lines and roll them down to many different things. And so CFOs will kind of look at us and say, like, is this a skill gap in our business that we don't have, or is this a technology limitation? And so we can help them kind of assess, like, hey, the system you have doesn't allow for that type of reporting. We can help there and build it for you custom, or you're just maybe not using the system to its full capability. And so that's where we see a lot of success, is coming in from the CFO lens and saying, hey, like, what metrics would help you really drive your business, and understanding where you just haven't been able to create those in the past, and then building those custom if we can. Yeah,
and would you say most companies, like, it's coming from the CFO that wants to see these metrics, or you also, if a company doesn't have a CFO, obviously these metrics could still be valuable, correct?
Right. And a lot of things that we see is, like, even if you're the CEO, the president, the CFO, and you're in a different part of the business, those metrics span all service lines and all people. So maybe the CFO wants to see it. Maybe someone in your business struggles to produce those things. Our goal is to get all data across the business to be kind of a unified report for the CFO, so that it makes everyone's life easier. So whether you're CFO or you're in some other discipline within the business, there should be overlap there.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Jake, you are a wealth of knowledge, so thank you so much for joining us today. And reminder that we are always here to be a resource and support you, and I look forward to connecting, developing, and growing with you all. Cheers.